Go ahead, Ryan.
Well, hello there, everyone. Thank you for attending another wonderful adventure into the realms of evolutionary astrology with your host, Ryan Evans. Before I jump into the delicious material today about rewriting history, it's imperative that I give you a little information about who I am and where I get off saying the things I'm about to say. I have studied astrology for 25 years, first with the great astrologer Pat Kaluza in Minneapolis, and then certified as a master level astrologer with the Stephen Forrest School of Evolutionary Astrology. I've also had plenty of other teachers, past, current, and Lord knows I will in the future. Um, Before I begin talking about how to rewrite one's history or one's her story, uh, it is very important that I tell you, give you a trigger warning. Much of what I'm going to say here could trigger some ancient woundedness in you if some of the things I say are resonant with some ancient woundedness in you. So listen at your own risk. Um, and also, please know that everything I say is just my opinion based on what I believe these archetypes and symbols to mean. I am not a psychologist. I am not a psychiatrist. And so, therefore, rewriting history, going into one's psyche, that can be very sensitive, maybe even dangerous terrain. And we as astrologers navigating this terrain with our clients, we have to be incredibly sensitive to what happens when we go into the psyche. Again, trigger warning, we could open up cans of worms that, if we're not necessarily prepared, can sometimes cause more damage than the help we're trying to give. So everything that I say here is not like the uh, confirmed valid by the American Psychiatric Association. Everything I say here is, not nodded and approved by the panel of, world psychologists or astrologers for that matter. This is my opinion. Yay. So with opinion, there's all sorts of different interpretations. This is just my particular interpretation. So please ride with me on that. This lecture is a conjecture. None of this is necessarily a proven or provable fact, but I have seen, and every time I apply these techniques, I have seen incredible success. Does that mean it's going to happen every time? No. Does that mean that sometimes we enter the psyche and fall into an apparent bottomless pit? Yes, that can happen. So, what I'm going to talk about today is what happens when we humans, raise your hand, when we humans have experienced trauma in our past in an incredibly large degree, or maybe even a small degree. What do we do with that? So I actually just had a client a few days ago. Trauma, 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 trauma. Turn the page, a little more trauma. What do you say to somebody? And got me to thinking, well, there are only so many things that we can say as astrologers. And this is for us as practicing astrologers or as astrologists doing this for fun, trying to figure out our own stuff, maybe helping friends or family out without getting paid. That's the definition of an astrologist. We astrologers work with it, get paid for it. Okay, so just know that this is for astrologers and astrologists. But again, it's my opinion. None of this is validated by any psychological association. So, how do we change our stars? What was the movie? Heath Ledger in A Knight's Tale. I remember watching it with my children when they were younger. The story of a peasant boy who wants to, grow up and be the world's most famous knight and a fantastic jouster. But according to him, it's written in his stars that he's just someone who sews nets. And so the quest of this movie, can a man change his stars? Can a woman change her stars? And the answer is no. Sorry. No, you cannot change your stars. You cannot change the fact that you were born with a Mars-Venus conjunction in Scorpio. You cannot change the fact that you have a South Node in Aries conjoined Mars. There are certain things that are set. So what can we change? We can reframe our perception of everything that has ever happened to us in this life, and frankly, any lifetime. We can reframe our perception of those events based on observing the planetary stimulus and the associated signs and houses, reframing it to look through the lens of the best of all possible outcomes. Oh, sounds good, Ryan. Yeah, best of all possible outcomes. Well, and trigger warning, trigger warning. Well, what do you say then, Ryan? How do you change the stars, Ryan? How do you change the HERSTORY of that young lady who was kidnapped and raped and beaten and is now lying in the gutter bleeding? Go ahead, change them stars, Mr. Astrologer. One cannot. One absolute, if an event in reality actually happened, there is absolutely, unfortunately, no going back and changing that actual event. The only thing we can do as astrologers is try to suss out, try to find, try to milk out, wring out the best of all possible ways of viewing what could be one of the most tragic experiences a human can experience. Oh, so we're supposed to say, okay, hey, you young lady who's kidnapped, beaten, raped, just look at it positively. Just change the way you think about that situation. Or how about something vile, worse? Oh, good, just hell. What did you do to deserve that? How did you bring that situation on yourself? No, boom, we can't have that thinking at all. In fact, just as a side note, shaking my astrological finger to some astrologers, I have had client reports who have said, astrologers have said, oh, well, look at your chart. It's your destiny to have had that shadow experience. Oh, look at your chart. I'm not surprised you were kidnapped and beaten based on those astrological natal configurations. If I hear of any astrologer saying that, shaboom, that doesn't help. It's never our fault to be a victim. So let's just say, what are we going to tell that person? Hey, check out the best of all possible worlds. Sorry, you're suffering. Your trust has been completely annihilated. There's absolutely nothing in this world that is going to make you feel better. And then, so that person comes to us for a reading. Oh my God, this shadow situation happened to me. What do I do? I mean, what do I say? Well, just rewrite your history. Just reframe it. Just take a positive look at it. Shaboom. Oh God. Oh, that's the response. So let's look at it. Maybe, and I'm just pulling this out of the ethers, and under no circumstances am I saying that people with this placement are destined to have this experience. Not at all. But let's just say for sake of discussion, somebody comes to us as astrologer, or maybe it's a friend, or heck, maybe it's us. And maybe that person has a Venus-Pluto conjunction in 8th house Virgo opposite 2nd house Mars in Pisces. And this person comes to us, and we can look at a possible manifestation of that natal aspect to be situations that could be synonymous with that kind of hell. Maybe that individual trusted the wrong person. Maybe she opened up too soon to somebody in hopes of trust without scrutinizing the situation well enough. Maybe she did it all right and was still just simply taken advantage of by an insane perpetrator. And maybe she thinks it's all her fault. So all we can do as astrologers, not psychiatrists, is in addition to saying, hey, this is a situation where professional psychological or psychiatric help might be a really good thing. That's a really great thing for us astrologers to say, especially when there's such incredible trauma, soul, complete disassociation. I've seen it. And so the best thing that I have said for some of these folks is, hey, there are other people who want help. There are other people with other gifts and other methods for helping you to reclaim these fragmented pieces of your soul. Call up Patricia Walsh and do some deep memory processing. It will help. But in the meantime, somebody's coming to us for help, and maybe they have this incredibly shadow situation. So what can we do? The only thing we can do as astrologers is suggest the best of all possible outcomes of looking at the archetypes. That is all we can do. And that sounds light, but when we take this a lot more deeply, we can come to the point where we can go into past lives and see these situations and make different choices in our imagination. That's level 3. That's what I will be teaching a little bit in my level 3 class tonight. So taking a look at this hypothetical situation, someone suffered abuse. This individual had a Venus-Pluto conjunction in 8th house Virgo opposite Mars in their natal chart. The very best thing we can do is look at Venus and look at Pluto and look at the 8th house and look at Virgo and look at Mars and look at Taurus and look at the 2nd house and take all of these symbols and see what the best of all possible expression of all of them are. And then spin our languaging to be in support of that outcome. And in the reclaiming of the fragmented pieces of the, oh my God, how am I ever going to trust? Oh my God, I'm completely dissociated from my body. we can see things like, okay, here's Virgo, a need to get into the body. Here's Virgo, a motivation, the signs, motivating operatives. Here's a motivation to do your best to try to make it a little better. That's all you can say. Oh, why don't you just have some sunshine and rainbows in a shot glass every morning and you'll be fine. It's not going to happen. Here's Virgo, here's Pluto, here's eighth house. We're looking at some serious healing work, even if this person did not have any shadow experiences in this lifetime. We're still looking at the Virgo need, the Virgo motivation for putting things in order in our life, the work that it takes to refragment, to recombobulate one's fragmented soul. Now, this is all surface. This little, free YouTube video. I'm just giving the surface stuff, and the deeper methods. It takes weeks, months, and years to master. So I'm offering suggestions here only as to the best things that we can do in our limited efforts as astrologers. And our efforts as astrologers are to read the archetypes. We're not here to necessarily fix anybody. However, that is, in my mind, the natural evolutionary progression of where astrology is going. And through work like Patricia Walsh does and others, there is an incredibly deep process for healing these things that takes a long time to learn, a long time to integrate. So right out of the gate, though, you're an astrologer, you've just graduated with your certificate, or you've got your NCGR certification or something. Hey, I'm an astrologer. Yeah, come do a reading. And somebody shows up. Oh, it's bloody in the gutter. Oh, gosh, I'm only 23 years old and I'm a new astrologer and I'm supposed to tell this person something helpful. Yes, you tell that person something helpful. You understand the archetype of Venus and Pluto and Virgo, and you offer them clues, solutions, tactics of doing Virgo right, of doing Venus consciously, of doing Pluto consciously, and doing eighth house consciously. And as you can see, we're looking at an incredible amount of work already, just trying to do Virgo right. So we know it's Virgo, we know it's a process, we know there's healing needed, and we know that there are step-by-step methods with which to reintegrate these things. What are the things that we are to reintegrate? Opposite Mars in Pisces in the second house. To have incredible compassion, to have the courage, Mars, to have incredible compassion, Pisces, for ourselves and who we really are in our core. Second house, what we value, what's important to us, our self-worth. So when we can look at the archetypes and spin them, yes, spin them in the best of all possible way, the best we can do in our field is to offer the individual choices with which to re-engage life. It's not a solution. It's not going to fix it. Oh my God, this thing happened in my life where all of this 12th house and all of this loss, and I suffered and I suffered, and 12 years later, I'm still suffering from those 12th house transits or progressions or whatever it is. Well, what does the 12th house ask for? Letting go, allowing, releasing, and an understanding of the temporalness of this human life. Gotta sometimes just let it all go and give it all up. And understand the flow of the universe is sometimes beyond our human comprehension. But if we're attached to the suffering in the 12th house, oh, the ego is suffering, and oh my God, I'm still this person who's suffering from this experience, then we as astrologers can go back to that time when there was the 12th house stimulus. And we can look at the planet or the house or planet or the sign that was stimulated at that time. Say there was again, just pulling it out of the ethers, say there was a lunar progression through through Scorpio, 12th house. And for some reason, 5-6 years later, the person is still suffering from whatever experience they had at that progression. Well, back then, the lesson of a lunar progression through Scorpio in the 12th house is to have that confrontation with death and come to a point where we understand that it's really all good by doing Scorpio right, living deeply and sucking out all of the juicy deliciousness of life. Scorpio taken too far can want to gobble up that orange. Give me more. Because I'm so afraid of death that I need more to feel more alive. But Scorpio done right is, oh, this present moment is so delicious. Wow, the sacredness of the orange in this moment. Scorpio, 12th house. Rewriting the history of that individual is going back to that time and remembering it from that lens, through that lens. Oh God, it was suffering, it was horrible, it was the death and pain and loss. And can we choose to go back and look at it through Scorpio's highest expression, the celebration of the present moment? Or how about this one? You grew up in a family of psychological abuse. Sound familiar? I mean, Lord knows it happens all the time. So, how do you heal that? Well, the quick, easy answer is years of therapy. And the quick, easy answer is you don't necessarily heal it in one day going to an astrologer who's never met you. But we can, as astrologers who have never met you, understand the archetypology of, say, Pluto in Libra in the 4th house. Psychological abuse, well, I guess I could see that from Pluto in the 4th house, but Libra's nice. I mean, what's wrong with Libra? Pluto and Libra? I mean, it's hard for me to understand. I mean, what's Plutonian about Libra? How about this? The parents who never share the truth with you because they want it all to be good and nice. And then everything's good and nice, and then something happens. You see the bum on the street at age 8, and your mother goes like this and makes you not look at it. And so what kind of development does a child have when they're not allowed to feel the heavy stuff? They get into their teenage years and all the heavy stuff is really in their face, and they're not psychologically prepared in any way, shape, or form to handle it. So what do? Go back and say, oh, well, when you were a kid, your parents thought they were being nice by not showing you the hard stuff. It's okay. No, we have to have an awareness of Pluto's desire to become aware of the shadow stuff and Libra's desire to, I don't know, find balance and harmony and equilibrium in the mind, to find peace amidst the hell. Pluto and Libra in a nutshell. So how do you go back and change the history? It's about going back and looking at the reframing it and observing it through Pluto's most positive expression, the work that we go through, the soul retrieval that we do in order to be a powerful presence for others who are suffering, or to at least not perpetuate the Pluto wound. And so, at the very least, with Pluto in the fourth house, and having been wounded in the past in the family situation, we can take a very good look at the life experiences that we had and reframe them all as an incredibly strong, powerful opportunity to understand the psychological intricacies of family relationship, Pluto and Libra in the fourth house. And then, after a lot of work, that Pluto and Libra in the fourth house individual may be a powerful psychological cheerleader for other people. But you don't get there without doing the work. So, what we're looking at is doing our best to reframe life experiences in the context of what would have been the best of all possible outcome. If it wasn't the best of all possible outcome, how can we go back and reframe that history by how can we? Well, by observing the best of all possible intentions of whatever the planetary stimulus was. Oh, I was knifed in the back by my ex-wife during something stimulating my Venus. Oh, and I've been so wounded ever since. What am I going to do? What does Venus want to teach us? Venus always, no matter what, wants to teach us how to love thyself. So, how do you need to love yourself? What ways could you have loved yourself more better? How can you love yourself in those ways right now? How can we look at the experience of the knife in the back and the eternal trust wound over lifetimes repeating itself? How can we look at that as a magnificent opportunity to not be so gullible next time, or to, again, that's tongue in cheek. I'm not saying we are gullible. Sometimes we are simply victims. Oh, don't be a victim next time. No, it's not that easy. It's about, can you, in the process of reclaiming and recombobulating your soul, can you love yourself so intensely that you can then give yourself everything you need to find and feel that equilibrium, that balance which needs to be restored? So I guess in your notes, rule number 1, how to change history. We must observe the best of all possible intentions regarding that planetary stimulus. Something hit my Mars. There is a best of all possible ways of viewing that. It's not an illusion. It's not saying, oh, just shut up and be happy. Oh, pull yourself out of the gutter and dust yourself off. You're stronger than that. No, it's what can we do with it? What are we to learn? What does each planet want? Number 1. Number 2, what is the best of all possible outcome for each planet, each sign, and each house? Also, regarding the planets, how best to act with when each planet is stimulated, that is suggested by the signs. We do the signs. The signs are adverbs. We do it courageously. That's Aries, because the alternative is to do it fearfully. And so the beautiful thing about learning astrology is that each of these archetypes, planets, signs, and houses, have their obvious benefits and their obvious shadows. And while it is glib to just say, oh, well, if you're conscious, then you're obviously going to choose the best of all possible outcomes in every situation. And if you're unconscious, well, will obviously default to the negative. If only life were that easy. If only life were that simple. So we must observe the best of all possible intentions of each sign as motivating operatives, motivating influences. Each sign can motivate us in a positive way. Yeah, Pisces, one love. Or each sign can motivate us in a negative way. Pisces, I feel everything and I have to escape it. So yes, conscious choice has an effect on that. Again, all sorts of extenuating circumstances that could encourage us to choose the uh, the the least of all least best of all possible choices. So with each sign, with each planet in the past having been triggered negatively, having shadow experiences, we can always ask these questions. What is my soul trying to learn? What am I trying to heal? What am I trying to reclaim? And the answer always is the best of all possible expressions of the planet, sign, and house. Oh my God, this horrible thing happened and I'm in the gutter. What happened? Well, it was during this planetary stimulus of these planets and these signs in the houses. Okay, well, since we can't change the actual event, the best that we can possibly do is ask what we're trying to learn, what we're trying to heal, and what we need to reclaim from that situation. We can go through these really quickly here in a minute. What is the highest choice of any sign? Again, their signs will motivate us positively, and a lot of times that's really difficult to do. And signs can motivate us negatively, and those are quite often easy to do. So we have to say, wow, what is my best of all possible ways of being? And we look at the sign and we try to do that as best as we can. What is the stimulated planet trying to teach me? Something happened. Mars opposed my Venus, Pluto. What does Venus always want to teach me? Well, how to love myself, how to trust, who to trust, and how to say no. Venus, 100%. Its job is to say no. Mars says yes. Venus, no, no, not that. No, not you. Not you, not you. No, not you, not you. Okay, you come in. Nope. Everybody else, no, no. So we learn how to say no more with healthy Venus. We also have to ask, how can I choose differently in the future? In the future, in these situations, whenever there is, say, a situation that is happening to my Venus, this is an opportunity for me to have a healthy sense of trust. This is to know how to trust and who is trustworthy. And since I know myself and I know the sign on my seventh house cusp and the planetary ruler, well, that sign and the planetary ruler and the sign and house that they're in, that's all information for me. And since I'm listening to what Ryan's saying here, I'm spinning all of that in the best of all possible ways. So how can I do Venus right? I can say no next time to people who might look fair but smell foul. So the natal planet that's being triggered is always teaching us what is needing to be developed. Our perception, our self-love and relationships, our nurturing of self, our listening to our soul, our motivating operatives, the mission that we must stay true to. These are planets. And so when one of our planets is triggered, or when we can see in the future, hey, it looks like one of my planets is going to be triggered. Oh gosh, Mars is going to oppose my Venus-Pluto conjunction. What's it trying to teach me? Mars is always teaching us courage over fear. So, 10 years ago, Mars did this and it was hell and hard and the answer is I can't change that situation, but how have you learned more courage? How have you learned more more conscious, safe self-protection? Yeah. So the signs then show us how to develop that archetypal area of life, how to do it most consciously, or in regards to reframing the past, how best to look at it. Oh, it was Scorpio. It was absolute bloody hell. I was knifed in the back by a ninja I couldn't see. Well, just be happy. No. Scorpio says that amidst the death and the hell and the pain and the blood, how can we still, since we are alive still, how can we still be grateful for that life and work really passionately on making each moment heretofore count? Best you can do. So let's look real quickly at what happens. We'll go through the planets here. What happens? Something square, something in opposition, something quincunxing. My natal sun moon. Da, 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 da. How best to frame that in terms of anything in the past happening to that, or anything in the present or future for that matter happening to that. When our sun is triggered, it is always important as astrologers to remind our friends, family, or clients that this is an opportunity to ask yourself who you really are, what you're really about, what is ultimately most important in your life. And sometimes the Uranus aspect, we have to break free or let go of people we were. Neptune, things around us, who we are, must slowly dissolve almost imperceptibly. Pluto transiting our sun, it is a time for intense soul recovery, soul reclamation, soul retrieval that will put us into alignment with our deeper, higher destiny. So the sun always then says, anything triggering our sun, who am I really? What am I really about? What actually gives me my energy and personal power? Shadow experience triggered the sun 10 years ago. I have no idea who I am. Looking at the sun, astrologer says this is a magnificent time. That was a magnificent time, and here that it's being triggered again. Magnificent time for you to define who you really are. What about the moon? Moon is happiness. You know, everything we can say about the emotion and the family, public, whatever archetypes we want to throw at the moon, it always comes down to how we feel in here. And so the questions, something triggers our moon, something shadow occurs to us 10 years ago, now or in 10 years to our moon. We have to ask ourselves, what's really important to our emotional happiness, satisfaction? What do we really need? how to how do we find that? And then, maybe this is part two, but the signs then show us how to develop that. Something happened to my moon in Scorpio. Develop that in a positively Scorpio way by having a passion for the truth. Oh, my moon is in Virgo. Well, something triggered that moon. How can you make yourself more of the master and less of the slave? How can you strengthen yourself with the necessary tools and resources with which to effectively manage your emotional life? Oh God, oh, do it's a good response for the moon. A little time. Do the sign as consciously as possible, because what you're really after is happiness here. Something adversely affects our Mercury 10 years ago, now 10 years in the future. Mercury is always wanting the clear lens. A shadow Mercury situation quite often occurs when we are confused or mistaking thoughts for reality, or having some sort of uh, inner dialogue that lies to itself. Maybe we were lied to. How do we go back and change something where we were lied to? Our Mercury was adversely affected. We say, oh, I wasn't listening to myself. How can I listen to myself more in the future? Oh, I was completely lied to. It was out of left field. There was nothing I could have done. Forgive yourself and move on and keep your senses open with more awareness, so that maybe you can have a broader spectrum of visual stimuli and you'll see it coming out of the left field. Again, this is all surface. This is all conjecture, my opinion. This does not nearly go to the depths that I take this in my practice. So something stimulates our Venus. Again, we've talked about Venus today. How can we reclaim our ability to trust based on a conscious self appraisal and self awareness? The intention of Venus is to trust wisely. Who are my allies and what really gives me peace? Oh, this situation happened when and I was in a situation where before that I was feeling really horrible about myself. Well, now we know where the work is. Great. Now that we're here, how to reframe that in a way where, all right, we're in the process of reclaiming that self-love, reclaiming our ability to trust. Oh, sure, Ryan. Just shut up and be happy. No, this is actually incredible work to go back and see places where we've been used or abused, or things happened to us, we were victimized, and go back and look at that, and without rage and anger or incredible triggered woundedness. Yeah, right, mister. But this is the best in terms of this video. This is the best we astrologers can do on this level. Again, there are techniques uh, being developed currently by Patricia Walsh, deep memory processing, absolutely amazing techniques for shamanically going back and actually doing the work of deeply reclaiming these fragmented pieces. It is a shamanic journey. Not all of us are prepared to guide people into shamanic journeys, into uh, uh, recombobulating fragmented pieces of their soul. So, so again, astrologers, astrologists, what do? Something hit our Mars. Mars is always asking for us to draw our sword and our shield. Oh, maybe in the past I was too scared. How can I develop more courage? So how to frame anything shadow happening to Mars. This and I've alluded to it, but this is, I'll make a note of it, that this is so very important for the future. Oh my God, Pluto's gonna oppose my Mars. And, sometimes, it's not unwarranted fear. Oh, Pluto's gonna oppose my Mars and I'm freaking out for 2 years before it happens. That's the Pluto opposite Mars thing, where your subconscious is having all of these fears that might just happen to be illusory. So maybe it's a magnificently important time in 2 years when Pluto opposes your Mars to find an absolute incredible strength amidst the hardcore intensities of life, because maybe you're going to be asked to be a leader, a revolutionary, a transformer in the family, in the group, with the friends, in society, in your own world. But Mars is always asking for our courage. So how to reframe any shadow experiences with Mars in a way where we can look at it as this was a magnificent opportunity, regardless of being beaten and left in the gutter, a magnificent opportunity for me to learn some courage. And again, I know that sounds glib, but without actually doing the soul retrieval, spinning this in ways that are the best of all possible outcomes. The best of all possible outcome for Mars is always a being in our strength, our power, and our passion in a relatively impenetrable way. And so we come to Jupiter. What can go wrong? Hey, Pluto hit the Jupiter and we go bankrupt. Hey, just be happy. No, it's asking us to get really clear and really focused as to what our mission, our dreams, our potentials, what we want our future develop into, in a really authentically true way, and not in a way that is incongruent with who we are to be. So sometimes the Jupiter transit where we're carrying 14 blueberry and custard pies and we trip and we fall down the steps and all the pies are decimated, but we're doing fine. But oh, we lost the pies. Oh, well, we can look back on that and maybe we could have maybe learned a little bit of humility, because we all know Zeus was not so humble. But in that situation, we can just be feeling great that we've got the 14 blueberry and custard pies. And maybe if we didn't, announce it to everyone in our grandeur, we wouldn't have tripped over. So how to not take things too far sometimes with Jupiter, but also how to stay in alignment with that mission. Pluto hits the Jupiter 10 years ago. Who the heck am I? Oh my God, I have no money. I'm bankrupt. What's my purpose in life? That's right. It was a magnificent, wonderful opportunity for one to align with their purpose. And as we all know, Saturn can always have its way with us. Why? Because Saturn's always wanting to form our identity in a way that works, not in a way that's fluffy or superfluous or glamorous. Leave that for Neptune. No, Saturn wants to form us. And Saturn wants to teach us the right way of being in accordance with natural law. I want to fly. I want to fly. I'm going to jump off this edge of a cliff. And Saturn says, gravity exists. Saturn's not like, la, ha, ha, I'm gonna get you, oh, you stupid mortal. Oh, jump off a cliff, I will kill you with my gravity. No, Saturn loves us. Saturn loves us so much. Saturn is our best friend. Why? Because Satan was given the job to teach humanity the really hard lessons that they just wouldn't get otherwise. I'm one of them. You're one of them. So, Saturn, how can we look at those really challenging things in our life where we've suffered, where we've come up to the limitations of natural law? And how do we say, okay, this is something that I needed to learn? I mean, how many times have we had a Saturn experience that 5, 7, at a Saturn cycle later, we say, oh yeah, that's why that happened. So how to frame Saturn experiences in a way where we're grateful for the lessons. We're grateful for the container of the cup holding the water, right? If the cup wasn't there, then if that table wasn't there to prevent me from getting water all over me, that's what would have happened. But that form, that table, that structure was there to block the water from falling in my lap. Thanks, Saturn, because we know how water can get everywhere, right? So reframing life experience. Oh, this Saturn experience. Oh, Saturn's going to transit my 12th house. Wonderful, wonderful tests of learning what true spirituality is and what the woo-woo fluff is. Saturn transit of that 12th house is sure going to teach us that. Uranus. Now, this one's really tricky because Uranus, quite often associated with unexpected trauma. How do you heal that stuff? Anytime a Uranian experience happens, Uranus transits something of us, so our natal Uranus is triggered. The answer is always how do I be the most authentic human I possibly can be in the context of chaos, change, insanity, or other people's free will over which I have no control. Uranus always teaches us to keep our knees bent on the surfboard of life. And so to reframe the trauma in our past in terms of, hey, again, it sounds so asinine. Hey, so you had some trauma and you're still alive. Looks like you're doing great. And so we learn how to ride the wave. We learn how to blend with change. And as we stay authentically ourselves amidst that, that's like staying centered on our surfboard as the waves occur. Again, this is all surface. Neptune stimulus. How can we learn the acceptance of the impermanence of existence, and that we are just this little piece of the ocean congealed into form, and that when we pass, that form dissolves and we go back into the ocean. That's really hard for our human brains to really grasp because it's so big. And so there are things beyond our control, and there are things that we don't know the plan for. Anything happens to our Neptune, past, future, present. Neptune does something, past, present, future. How can we have faith in the unknown? Pluto. We are being asked to recover a fragmented piece of our soul. With any Pluto stimulus, we are being asked where we might be holding fear or rage or shame or any other shadow experience. And so something happens plutonically, past, present, future. How to frame it in a way. Oh yeah, I was almost dead in a gutter, and what am I trying to learn about my unconscious wounds? Again, it sounds glib, but when we can face our deepest wounds and our deepest fears and submit to our life's calling that is quite often triggered from Pluto, then we can frame things in a way that at doesn't fix it, doesn't necessarily change the stars, but it changes how they affect us. So, to the degree we can observe the astrological archetypes through the lens of what their best of all possible expressions can be, then that is essentially conscious evolution, which is what we're doing here and kind of why we're doing it. Because let's face it, life can be hard and life can have absolute tragedy. And there is absolutely no fixing it other than our own conscious choices in observing the best of all possible outcome of whatever tragedy it is and what we are being asked to learn and integrate because of it. So that's what I've got for this session. I can see that this might percolate up into another Zoom meeting where we look at the signs and the houses in terms of what their best lessons are. But in closing, is there any questions at this point? And if not, I can say adieu.
Really quick question.
Yes, Elise.
Okay. How do you help someone when you can see that they're really attached to their pain and past trauma, and it's kind of like part of their identity? Or how do you help yourself when you recognize that that's happening?
The first answer sounds like a cop-out. We seek professional help and we work with a qualified therapist over long term to really root out the core of why and how that exists. Other than that, all we can do as astrologers is observe the archetypes and suggest to them the best of all possible attitudes and choices, courses of action to take, what parts of us need the attention, and all we can do is make suggestions. I've got one client who, quite frankly, oh, forgive my laughing. Oh, I have one client who I've worked with for say 4 years, 2 or 3 readings a year, and they have literally done nothing I have suggested. Not my fault, all I can do is say, oh, Libra, try to relax, or, something like that. And this is the best. I mean, of course, that's one dimensional, but all I can do is offer my suggestions. And the beauty of astrology is that it comes down to choice. I can't control you. All I can do is be a reader of the archetypes. And that, as an astrologer, is a really healthy place to be, because it can separate one from the other person's suffering. And when we say, hey, Mercury, maybe we just are looking at it from this big of a hole and we need to look through this big of a hole. No, I'm going to look through this big of a hole. Well, then I guess you get to keep doing your shadow Mercury then, and next, yeah, $100 next, and so being able to have that place of, I'm a reader of archetypes. If you really want the deep work, we can do deep memory processing, or you can go to a psychiatrist. Other than that, all we can do is suggest the best of all possible courses of the archetype. Sound good?
Yeah, beautiful. Thank you.
Ryan, thank you so much. Thank you so much. I think we're
You're
losing.
welcome, Linda.
Oh, good. You're still there. Fantastic. Okay. Could you all please thank Ryan Evans?
Thank you, Ryan. Lots of new information to study and think about.
All right. Thanks, everybody.